Hello everyone. Season 12 is finally here, and I'm coming to you from the void right now to break down the most recent patch that is live on the current servers just a couple of days before the new DLC and the 4 new variant civilizations are released. It is a great time to be an Age of Empires 4 fan. If you are new here, what we do is we start the patch notes about halfway through with the balance and gameplay changes for all civilizations, and then we go ahead and look at the specific changes for each civilization and then rank them based on where they are going to be in this current patch. Are they going to be stronger? Are they going to be weaker? Or stay the same? So the same is the gray, obviously stronger is the green, worse is the red. And so let's jump in together and figure out where things are going to be. We do try to take into consideration how the larger scale balance changes across all civilizations will be impacting everything. And there is a pretty significant Professional Scouts nerf that I think is going to be impacting the strength of a lot of the civilizations, and especially those that were relying on that pretty significantly beforehand. So let's jump right into things here and see where we're at. Balance and gameplay changes, all civilizations. Shoreline fish food has been increased from 500 to 600, so that means that there's more food there. It's more beneficial to be out on the water. Also, boar has been increased from 2,200 to 2,400. So if you're being out there, you're risking it, you're trying to kill the boar without losing a villager. If you do, you're better than me. You're now getting a better reward for that risk. 200 extra food is in that food source, which is very nice. And then this is the big one, deer. Now slowly lose food over time while being carried by scouts. I have not had a chance to test this myself. I did hear Beastie talking about the fact that he was saying his close deer pack, he would gather the deer. By the time they arrived at his TC, he had 7 deer, and then he got to his TC, it was about the same amount of food as 6 deer. And that's your close deer pack. So just imagine your kind of secondary deer pack that's a bit further away, let alone the deer packs that are closer to your opponent's base. By the time you gather those, you may only be getting the amount of food of 3 or 4 deer back to your town center. So a big nerf to Professional Scouts that's been hit with a couple nerfs over the past couple of patches, really going to be impacting a lot of civilizations, so we'll get to that in a moment. Also, we have some naval updates. Fishing boats are gathering from the shoreline fish faster, so again, even more important to get on the water and get those fish. The Lodia is matching that shoreline fish for everybody else. And then these are all upgrades for the military ships. They're all being reduced in cost. All the research times are being decreased. Armored hull giving you that health for your ships. Springled crews giving you the additional springled shots. Incendiaries giving you the additional flaming arrows for your arrow ships. And extra hammocks giving you that extra arrow shot as well for your arrow ships. Maybe they're looking to try and increase some of the decision making in the Castle Age when you're trying to get there. A lot of the water maps just end in Feudal Age though, so I don't know how impactful these changes will be, but they are cheaper if you do want to go for some of these technologies. And finally, aeroship projectile speed has been increased by 20%, so it's going to be more difficult to sneak some of those demos in if you're able to protect yourself with those aeroships. Could change how things go on water. It's definitely going to be interesting to see. Points of interest have also been updated, but just the pack of wolves, it's going to make them more dangerous. They're going to have more health. They're going to do more damage. They're going to be able to chase down your spears more effectively if you're going for one of those early strategies to kind of burn those down. And then the delay has also been reduced. They're going to spawn earlier for the first spawn. So interesting stuff there. We shall see how that changes things. All right, so let's move into the civilization-specific changes, and we are going to be talking first about the Abbasid dynasty. So, the change there is the number of camel traders spawned from the trade wing has increased by 1 for each age. Now, this wasn't necessarily your go-to wing anyways. Certainly some people were doing Abbasid trade, but it wasn't necessarily the most popular strategy. So I don't know that this is going to make a huge difference for this particular civilization. So for that reason, our first rank here we're going to be going over is going to be going here into the same category. I don't think Abbasid's going to be doing too much different, but I do think maybe actually, now that I think about it, they might be buffed a little bit, and here's why. Because of the Pro Scouts changes, Abbasid never went Pro Scouts, but because Pro Scouts is weaker across the board, I think the Abbasid 2 or 3 TC strategy, which is their go-to, is actually going to be a bit stronger. So in this case, I am actually going to put Abbasid going to be slightly better in this patch than they were before. They were really down kind of towards the bottom tiers. Maybe they can make a bit of a comeback on this one. Coming back, we're looking at the Byzantines. Liquid explosives, this is an upgrade for them for their incendiary ships on the water. Again, Byzantines were not huge water civs. If you like playing Byzantines on water, this is certainly going to be nice for you. Maybe it just really puts it in line potentially with the other upgrades that have come through. I'm not exactly sure. But in this case, I think Byzantines is going to stay pretty much the exact same as the other situations here. Maybe they'll be a bit stronger because they also didn't go for the Pro Scouts situation. They weren't really focused on the 2TC boom, though, which I think is the strategy that's really going to be getting the most amount of benefit from Professional Scouts being nerfed. So we'll keep them there. Chinese finally getting a well-deserved nerf. Tax granted for unit production reduced by half. Tax for researching technologies reduced by a quarter. So very nice to see finally some of the taxes being taken down, because you didn't even need to mine gold as the Chinese. You could just simply get up to the next stage just by collecting taxes from your buildings while building up a pretty strong and scary feudal force. It was very frustrating to deal with, very fun to play with, though I will say. Village cost is also decreased, so that means you're going to have less wood in those kind of larger scale village buildings for all those villager population space. Ancient techniques, gather rate effect. This is the technology in the spirit way. So you would get this towards the end. 5% per dynasty does certainly make a difference, so they're going to be a bit scarier in the late game potentially. They already were scary, but maybe even more so. And then Thunderclap Bombs is again on the water, and this is their Imperial Age upgrade for kind of the more intense explosive projectiles. This has been nerfed because they were very strong on the water once you got into the Imperial Age. They were kind of undefeatable, it seemed. So looking at the Chinese, I think Chinese are going to be our first civilization that's going into the nerfs category. Is this significant nerfs? It is pretty strong, but I wouldn't go so far as to say that they were like, top tier and now they're going to be bottom tier. I don't think that I can possibly throw them into significant nerfs at this time. We're back. English. Campfire update, which is interesting. Now you need to be in Feudal Age to use the campfire. The line of sight improvement aura is now also going to be improving villagers' huntable gather rate by 10%. So you can go out, put a campfire beside your hunt and increase the gather rate from deer or boar. Kind of a unique idea, not something that anybody's really been playing with, but certainly an interesting new play style for English that loves to kind of stay in your base, make farms. Maybe if you have the map control, you now throw a campfire down beside your deer pack and also start to gather up a lot more resources. I think this is going to start to maybe give English very early aggression with the Council Hall just a bit of an improvement. I know it's not a big strategy up in the top pro levels, but at the lower leagues, if you go out on deer early, throw a campfire down, and then also you kind of are able to take advantage of course, the Council Hall now producing longbowmen at a 5% discount. I mean, every time you make 20 longbowmen, you get one for free. It's not a huge buff, but it does count for something. So in this case, I'm actually going to go ahead and do this. And maybe it's because I'm biased. Maybe it's because I like English so much. But because of the fact that Pro Scouts are nerfed, they have a couple of different unique things. I think English is going to see a bit of a resurgence here. I think that they're going to be going back to kind of pre-Pro Scouts, quite strong 2TC situation. They can go out, have a lot of early pressure with some of the hunts. And with the increased food for the boar, that also is helpful. I think there's a lot of things that are kind of giving English a helping hand in this particular patch. So we'll see. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe that's a stretch, but I think English might be looking a little stronger. They've been really down at the bottom of the tier list on Beastie's side at least. So we'll see if that is the case. Coming back, Malians. It's all about the Farimba garrison units. The Mansa Safadi increased across the board. Melee armor, veteran and elite as well increased. And then also you have the damage being increased in both the main form, veteran, and elite as well. So this is going to be a better unit. You might want to consider picking this up from the Farimba garrison. And then the Freeborn Warrior has also had the cost reduced. So who knows? I think it's not really necessarily their go-to strategy. Malians tend to do the cow boom instead. So I don't know if that's going to make a big difference. Coming back into the tier list here, I think Malians are going to be about the same, to be honest. I think one unit got a bit of a buff. You can maybe use them a bit more, but I don't think it's going to make a huge difference in the Malian playstyle across the board. Okay, coming back in, Mongols. The White Stupa landmark now decreases the stone cost of unit double production by 50%, finally giving us a reason to not go Kaganet Palace for the Mongols, which of course is their go-to H4 landmark that gives you all those units for free. I don't necessarily think that this is strong enough to be a reason why you wouldn't continue to get all those units for free, but maybe. Fixing a quick bug with the unpacking of units. And then this is all about the improved gather rate technologies. They've kind of lumped them all together because you originally had like improved versions for like 1, 2, and 3. Now it's all together just in improved horticulture. So it's a pretty expensive unit for 500 stone, but it could be definitely a useful late game pickup. And certainly Mongol did love to rush Imperial. If you're able to get there, get a decent amount of stone, then maybe you're able to also gather some of these upgrades and increase by 20% is a pretty significant upgrade in the late game on those technologies. So could be a bit of a buff, could be a bit of an increase. In terms of are they going to be doing any better? That's a tough call. Mongols weren't really professional scouts. They didn't really go 2TC either. I don't think that this is necessarily going to be this. You weren't like rushing improved gather rate technologies at any time. There's certainly not going to be things you're picking up earlier on in the game because they're quite expensive. So I think they're going to be probably about the same based on the changes here. Oh, there's also here, a bunch of improvements on a lot of the additional improved things as well. So it's not just those kind of economic ones. There's a bunch here as well that are also improved. So, you know what? Fine, we're going to change it. Based on that, they're a little bit buffed because you're going to pick up some of these improved ones, I think, earlier on in the game because they're not changing them to be super expensive. Could be potentially good as a civilization that you could, get a little bit more of a tempo with, I think. Coming back, we're looking at Rus. Oof, Rus. See ya, Rus. We'll see how this goes. Fixed an issue, relics duplicated. Very nice to see that. Horse Archer. Attack speed is better, but the damage has been reduced, and the elite damage has also been reduced. So Horse Archers attack faster, but are also worse, which means that you're going to be kind of kiting, but maybe not as able to kind of kite as effectively. Does that make sense? Because they're attacking faster, but doesn't that mean you have to turn around to attack more frequently in order to do the same amount of damage? I think I'm right on that. Maybe you can correct me in the comments if I'm off, but I think that that's a nerf to the Horse Archer, one of their go-to strategies. And then hunting cabin income has also been reduced by 15%. So again, pushing down more of that. That's not good. So Rus, I think, are really going to be struggling. This was their go-to strategy. I think they're also going to be one of the civilizations that was really relying on professional scouts in a big way, and that's significantly nerfed. I think Rus, they're going way, way down. I don't know if this is going to be something they can recover from. We shall see. Maybe I'm being a bit too doom and gloom on this, but I think Rus has had their time to shine at the very tippity top, and they're about to be thrust a little bit further down. This is a lot of nerfs coming their way, I think. We're coming back. We're on to the variant civilization changes already. Not a lot of changes for all the civilizations. So variant changes, Ayyubids, the Sultan's Mamluks kill effect. This was an upgrade you could get from the blacksmith, I believe, where if you kill a unit, then your melee infantry gains additional stats. So it gives you an increased duration for 30 seconds. This wasn't something they were going. They loved the camels, they loved the dervishes, and they loved the, what are they called? The desert raiders, of course. So I don't know if the people were really going for a lot of melee with the Ayyubids, but maybe this will potentially inspire some people. Economic wing industry, again, this is the one that is focused on a lot of increase in a lot of different resources that you get once you age up. This is not one that people typically go very often, but it is trying to entice people to go there. Maybe getting 1,000 stone immediately in Imperial Age if you're really under fire. You can drop down a quick keep. That could be useful, potentially, but again, I don't think this is going to be inspiring people to in the Feudal Age grab an extra 50 wood from the economic wing industry. Trade Wing Bazaar, if you love gambling, then this is maybe your chance because, you're going to be going in here with additional health and damage from all those units, but you never know what you're going to get from the Trade Wing Bazaar. So it's a risk. You can definitely take it. You can see what happens, and you can maybe get some good units out of it. I certainly have not played enough Ayyubid to kind of know how much of a difference these stats are going to make, but it is maybe going to make a difference. In terms of the playstyle here, I honestly think they're going to be about the same. They love to rush castle. They're going to be doing the same thing. Maybe you can do a bit more of a melee playstyle, but they are so good with the cavalry units there that I don't even know why you would necessarily want to change, unless there was a specific reason for it. I think they're going to be doing pretty much the same thing and finding the same amount of success, which is a decent amount of success. All right, coming back, we have the big one, the House of Lancaster. Manors have received an update on how they generate resources. It's a rework. It's a change. People have been asking for it for ages. Manors are now quite different. So let's talk about it. They have an aura that generates 4 food, 2 wood per minute per villager. Does not stack with multiple manors. So you can't put like 9 manors around the boar and like suddenly just gather it in like 3 seconds or anything. Or get a bunch of crazy per villager bonuses there. It's 1 per manor. Manors are also a drop-off building for all resources. I think we're going to be seeing people building manors on the gold, building manors potentially out on the deer as a place to go. They do not have garrison space. Could be a bit risky. Who knows? Manor income has been reduced significantly. Half the food and almost like a quarter of the wood. Actually, just under a quarter of the wood. So massive in terms of their kind of passive resource generation, which has long been something people have criticized about this particular civilization. You can't just pop down 9 manors now and suddenly have the benefits of like a bunch of TCs that are completely and very well protected by your entire base and the units you're now able to produce. Very, very different. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes, but definitely I think something that's going to be weaker, and it's going to take people a while to sort of understand how it works. Manor cost has been increased as well. They're just really land-basing the civilization. We also have condensed land practices is also Oh, actually, sorry, it's been reduced. So now you can get more manors quicker, which is nice, and also reduced. So you can get to 9 manors faster. But again, it doesn't matter necessarily as much. The passive gold generation is less than half of what it was before from these. So maybe we'll see the 2 town center Lancaster for the first time. Who knows? So Lancaster Castle no longer has an influence area. Instead, it automatically now increases the health and adds arrow slits to all manors, regardless of location. I think this is a great change because otherwise, you're going to have manors all over the map, and then they're not going to have the benefits of it within that range. Range no longer exists. Really makes sense. The Wingguard Garrison command cost has been increased. This is the one that gives you all the spears and the Earl's Guards in the Wingguard Age 4 Imperial Age landmark. So this is going to be more expensive. Probably pretty good. You were able to mass a lot of units very quickly just by spamming that one in particular. And Scouts can no longer use the campfire ability. It's now English exclusive. So interesting change there, just making the civilizations that little bit more different. I know that at the top level, the new strategy is to do the kings and the lords, and mass a huge amount of units. The baboon strategy is to go a huge army that way. I think even in that, you would be making some manors behind the scenes for passive resource generation. And that's just not going to be as effective at all. I think that this civilization has been changed drastically. And as a result, not only is it worse, but people are also not going to know what they're doing with it, which means that this is going to go into the significant nerfs side for sure. This was big changes to Lancaster, things people have been asking for a long time. But the old build up 9 manors and go kill your opponent, I think this is maybe the 4th or 5th patch in a row where Lancaster has been nerfed. So definitely much weaker than they once were when they were the demon civilization. Coming back, Knights Templar. Antioch Commandery Age Up bonus has improved. This is the one where you would get sergeants in the feudal age. So interesting that you're going to be increasing your melee damage by 5% for obviously the rest of the game, but also for that specific strategy. Maybe the sergeants might be a little bit stronger potentially with this melee increase because they are melee ranged units. So we shall see there. Genoa Commandery Age Up bonus has been reduced. This is where you get the Genoese crossbowmen, the increased crossbowmen in Castle Age. The gold improvement for pilgrims has been decreased. You're kind of getting a double bonus. A lot of people were going for those Genoese crossbowmen, and then they were also getting the bonus of a lot of gold income from those pilgrims, just toning that down a little bit, making some of the other ones maybe a bit more appealing. In terms of the units, Hospitaller Knights are going to be faster and have more health. I think we might be seeing some early age potential Knights Templar aggression. Maybe they go for some pretty aggressive stuff with some Hospitaller Knights that are going to be quite tanky and hard to kill with this maybe additional 5 health. We shall see. The Genitor, these are the ranged ones that are very good at dealing with anti-ranged units on the horseback. They're still trying to find their footing. They're not super useful, so they're just trying to increase their damage a little bit, both their base and their elite ones. So maybe that will make them more appealing. Who knows? The Schlachter Cavalry finally getting a little bit of a nerf here. These were the strongest cavalry in the game, pretty much bar none. So they're going to have a little bit of decrease in damage, a little bit of decrease in health. They were so tanky. I think they're still going to be very strong, but a little bit worse. Teutonic Knight. These guys were too slow, especially in team games with those large maps. It was impossible to get these guys across the field. They're going to be a little bit faster, running around and seeing if they can do some stuff there, which is nice. Fixed an issue where you could upgrade Rule of Templars multiple times. That was for the Templar charge damage to be increased based on the number of things. So good that bug has been fixed. Land preservation has been adjusted. So wood gather rate has been decreased, but it's been increased per age. So you're going to be slower earlier on, but then you're going to be kind of scaling more effectively as you go. Interesting. We'll see how that kind of works out in terms of numbers. Not sure if that's going to be stronger or weaker. Definitely weaker in the early game, though, which is interesting. Safe passage has been changed. So you're going to go for just a flip in terms of the food and the wood, which is interesting. And in fact, it has also a decrease on the sanctuary as well. So these are the technologies that allow you to get pilgrims and then also increase the number of pilgrims that are going, which is interesting. So that's going to be a little bit cheaper. 450 resources it's just rebalancing in terms of what they are. So just less food required for that. So maybe more units on the field as a result. We'll see. Harbors replaced docks, offering protection to nearby ships, increased durability, and improved naval emplacement. Am I crazy? Wasn't KT the best civilization on water, and now they're just making it better? Like, what are you talking about? So they have increased health, they have fire armor, they cost a lot more wood, so you can't be spamming them, so maybe that means you'll have less ships on the field because you can't have as many harbors. But a healing aura increases maximum ship health by 15%. Like, It seems to me like this is crazy and I don't know what they're doing because they were already so strong on water. Now they're going to be potentially even stronger. I know you're reducing the wood income earlier on, but is it going to make enough of a difference? I'm not sure. And then also you have a narrow naval aerosol emplacement is now the naval springle emplacement, which deals more damage, which you can get in the feudal age. So I feel like they're going to be almost impossible to push off the water. This seems like a crazy change to me. And that means that, Knights Templar, I think, are going to be in the buff category. A couple of interesting, unique units that are getting a bit of a buff. Some new strategies, maybe a buff. But the fact that they're going to be stronger maybe on water, as far as what I can see, that seems crazy to me. And it means they're going to be even more permabanned in the larger tournaments. And I think Boulder Bay is on the map pool. I think if you pick KT on Boulder Bay, you're going to be a very, very happy camper. Coming back, we have Jushi's Legacy. These changes are directly in line with the same ones we already discussed from China. So in that case, we're going to come back onto this tier list and put them in the exact same spot as China. They're nerfed. Taxes are down, and I think that that's going to definitely slow them down, not in a huge, huge way, completely destroying their strategy, but it is going to make things a little bit worse. With that said, everything else is kind of just going to maybe stay the same. Not, because we're going to take into consideration the larger scale changes. I think French is going to be worse because Pro Scouts was a big part of their strategy. I think it's not going to be as beneficial to them. Same goes for JD. I think it's going to be a bit worse. Delhi, I think, is going to be about the same. They did do a little bit of Pro Scouting, but it wasn't super important. Japanese, I think, is going to be about the same in terms of what they've got going on. Ottomans, I think, is going to be about the same. Holy Roman Empire, they did do Pro Scouts. They also have a big transition into farms that's pretty easy underneath the chapel if you're able to do a little bit of aggression. So I think they're probably going to be about the same. Order of the Dragon also, I think, is looking to be about the same. And then we have the 4 new civilizations dropping in a couple days, and who knows what they're going to be. I cannot wait to test and try out all sorts of new stuff with the new civilizations that we have coming just around the corner. So that is it for the, tier list portion of this. This is kind of where I think things are going to be. Putting English as the only significant buffs here might be a little crazy. Could be that they're there, but I'm going to stick with it. I think they're going to be stronger, especially in the lower leagues with some of the early aggression. I think it's going to be pretty oppressive potentially for people. I had a game against a Japanese player who I decided to do the Council Rush just to see, and it was a great deal of success on my end. So give it a shot in your own games. We will now be going back to the tier list, sorry, not the tier list, the patch notes, and talking through some of the additional changes we have all the way back at the beginning here. So let's jump back, and we'll go through Season 12. So they're changing how the seasons kind of work. They're doing multiple events per season now, it seems. So there's going to be more seasonal content throughout the course. They're going to be doing kind of a Halloween-themed event, more of a holiday-themed event, and then moving into the map monsters kind of thing that they've done before, with a chance to maybe get some of the old rewards you hadn't had a chance to before. This is great for people who are just jumping in. Shout out to my new PS5 players who are jumping into the game with their ability to join in with us on this for the first time. You're going to be able to access some of the old rewards that maybe were not going to be available to you because you had missed out over the past couple of years, which is nice. So again, the Hallow's Hearth event. We got some spooky stuff going on. I'm not sure I'm going to cover this too in depth. If you're very interested, you're more than welcome to pause the video, kind of take a look at what some of these challenges are going to be. I do love doing the challenges, though, getting some rewards. It's always very nice. As I said, the next one's going to be Seasons Fest, starting on December 5th. And again, we're going to have a bunch more rewards on this side as well. And then Something in the Water is the third event with the Map Monsters mode. And again, a bunch more stuff coming here. Ranked Season 12 updates. We got more stuff in terms of the rewards. Again, a bit disappointed. Didn't we already have this goblet? Isn't this something we already have gotten? Am I crazy? Isn't this the exact same? So a bit disappointed in terms of the rewards. I'm hovering over the Conqueror because, of course, I am a Conqueror player and I love showing that off. But, depending on where you land, these will be the same or different. Hopefully I can grab the Conqueror one again. We shall see. And then the season's going all the way to April. So we have a long time to kind of grind out, see if we can get there. Map pool rotations. They're really committing to a lot of the new maps, which is very interesting. I think we can't even talk about this without looking at what some of these maps are. So craters, there's meteors on this map where you can gather gold and stone simultaneously from these gigantic deposits, which is kind of interesting. Canyon, there was a big kind of thing. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Mongolian Heights, where there's the big waterway in between, and then you have a lot of cliff sides kind of snaking around on the other sides. Interesting there. Ocean Gateway is very similar to, is it Continental? I think maybe. But in this case, there's big cliffs around the outside, so there's not very many locations for docks. So very limited in terms of that. So you got to balance both land and water on that one. And so if we come back here, Flank Woods, we've already seen, I kind of can't remember, but Altai is now out. Archipelago, as I said, is being replaced by Boulder Bay. Ocean Gateways, changing from Canal. So this is a new map here. Golden Heights is back. It's not my favorite map. It's kind of weird. You just got to kind of guess how many villages you got to pull for the dock earlier on. Relic River is now replacing Rocky River, which is nice. That was a nice one from earlier on. Hill and Dale is now being replaced by Craters, again with those gigantic meteors that you can mine for gold and stone. And then Cliffside is back, replacing Carmel. So that's interesting. And then in the team ranked pool, you got African Waters, Canyon is coming in. Craters replacing Hedge Maze. Ocean Gateway replacing Nagari. Continental replacing Waterholes. Interesting having Ocean Gateway and Continental. I feel like these are very similar maps, if I'm not mistaken. Hidden Valley is now in here, replacing Lipany. Flank Woods replacing Hideout, and Prairie replacing the Enlightened Horizon. Okay, so again, new maps dropping with the DLC in a couple days. Very excited about that. And we also have some new biomes. Very excited to see what the beauty of the game is going to look like. Apparently there's been some matchmaking improvements, quicker queue times. I've always loved to see that. Mana rework is listed here. We already covered that. Gameplay improvements, more metallic stuff. Black and brown sheep. Hell yeah, love seeing those new sheeps all over the map. And then white colored sheep are removed from snowy biomes. Really like that. It was so hard to see them sometimes. It was brutal. And then just some Japanese visual updates. Very nice. AI updates, making them better in a couple of different game modes. Also better trying to defeat wonders. Fishing boats, some of their naval gameplay is going to be better. Trade more effectively in naval. And yeah, I guess just a general better AI experience for those of you who are playing against the computer players. And then also fixing an issue for console players for markets the bulk buy and sell were not rendering correctly. Let's see what else we got. Map information now available in Viewmaster and Free-For-All and Devote UI. That's information that you would want to see when you're choosing which ones you want to choose. And then balances and bug fixes. Issue where Mongol packed buildings would not reliably unpack. Great that that's fixed. Leading out of sync issue would occur anytime due to a problem with auras. Hopefully this reduces crashes across the board. I know they're very frustrating. You like to see that those are gone. Dynamic health bars will not be shown if the unit took damage from auras. Interesting. Fixed several crash issues, including a crash will recur on console when you exceed a certain number of friends. Very nice for our console players there. Wars not being properly unlocked. Nice to see that that's fixed. English campfires don't interrupt charge attacks. That's kind of funny. Camel lancers are not stunned by spear wall. That's very nice because I had experienced that a couple times. It's fixed the exploit with the warrior monks for roosts to duplicate relics, which is good. And this one right here, I love this. Mercenary houses now display which contract was selected as a tooltip when selecting the building. That means you're now going to be able to see, as your opponent is Byzantines, which contract they chose before either longbows or keshiks or javelin throwers pop out. I've always really thought this was annoying that you would see that they were building a mercenary house and had no idea what to react to until all of a sudden they had units on the field. Very, very nice to see this being implemented. Appreciate that very much as somebody who was facing the Byzantines quite frequently. This was interesting as well. Just like if you select a ton of units, if villagers are the most amount of them, then the village build menu is the one that is prioritized in terms of building buildings. There'd be times when you would select 18 villagers and 1 spearman, and then you'd go to hit, QQ to build a house, and all of a sudden your spearman is on patrol or something. So definitely appreciate that, being a little bit more intelligent in terms of what your selection is. And then maybe you can just do that more effectively. That being said, I'm definitely going to be grabbing a bunch of military units by accident and making them build farms for the villagers by accident. But it'll be what it will be, and it'll be something to get used to. I think this in general is a more positive change. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the cover of Patch Notes for Season 12. Hopefully this has been beneficial for you. Hopefully you agree with my tier list right here of where I think the civilizations are going to land. If you don't, let me know in the comments where I've gone completely off the rails. Would really appreciate that. And hopefully we'll see you very soon on the fields, on the maps, on the new DLC with the new civilizations. I cannot wait. It is a great time, as I said, to be an Age of Empires 4 fan. So that's all from me for today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in some more Age of Empires 4 videos going forward. And I will see you in the garrison, and I will see you with the new civilizations very, very soon. Have a great day, and bye for now.